On Blues Radio International, we're here today with David Crosby. Welcome, David.
Hi.
Appreciate your joining us. As someone who has had a career that has spanned a variety of types of American music, I'm especially honored to sit down with you as we broadcast blues music to the world. What influence do you think blues music has had in what you've done in your career?
Well, it's had a huge influence on everybody and everything they've done in this country and in most of the world, I think. Blues probably speaks to more people than any other form of music, I think, because it's so roots, it's so deeply embedded, in all of American music and in everybody's hearts. I think it speaks to more people than rock and roll or classical music, or certainly than pop music, which is about as deep as a bird bath. And the blues talks to your soul, talks to your insides, And so of course it affected me. One of the first records I had was that Robert Johnson record. And I immediately stuck a piece of it onto the first Crosby, Stills and Nash. You better call in your kitchen, 'cause it's going to be raining outside.
You brought it up before I did. That actually is the first piece of blues music that many white kids heard, though.
Probably, but it went along. There were people who came along during my era. Stevie Ray leaps to mind, but he's certainly not the only one. I think Bonnie is the true standard bearer. Mavis Staples, the whole Staples Singers, and certainly, everybody in rhythm and blues, everybody. But Bonnie is probably, I think, maybe the best blues singer alive. I think, she's certainly my favorite singer alive, period, of any kind. A lot of people would point out Aretha, but Bonnie does it without trying. It's just, she picks up a guitar and breathes blues. It's coming out of her pores. I don't know. I'm a little fake kitty from the suburbs. I don't know. And even I sing some. But Bonnie, she goes deep.
The respect that you've shown over the years, and Bonnie and a handful of others, for blues music, at least in my mind, carried this music through a period where it very much was at risk. There was an attenuated audience, to put it mildly.
Yeah, well, Beatles come. It's funny. What was his name? Great horn player, played 2 or 3 horns at the same time.
Russon Roland Kirk.
Russon Roland Kirk. I remember I was watching him in a jazz club, and he said, "It was good. Jazz was good." And then along come the Beatles and messed the whole thing up. And he knew it because he had a couple little white kid, folkies sitting in there. He was talking to us. But yeah, it got a little thin on the ground. But you can't kill it, because pretty soon somebody's heart will break, and what other kind of music they gonna sing? Lord alone knows the world is full of heartbreak, and music makes you feel better. And if you can't say, I don't know how she could do that to me, it gets it off your chest, And that's big. That's a big, therapeutic, wonderful, cathartic, enormously good human thing. Besides being good, fantastic goddamn music.
What do you think cuts across cultures and allows people, we've got confirmed listeners in 120 countries, places that you would not normally say you'd find blues listeners?
Well,
you do.
You have to go a little deeper when you look at it. It's not just blues, but now music is magic. It's been one of mankind's main magics since the caveman danced around his fire going, ugga, bugga, ugga, bugga, ugga, bugga. He was music. That was music. That was his magic. Mojo. Well, it always has been for us, you know. Bach, God rest his soul, and all of those cats. Music's magic. So it does speak to everybody, and it does cross cultural boundaries. Kalahari Bushman can play music with an Eskimo. May never be able to speak with him, but he'd play music with him. You know. There's two universal languages, music and math. Everybody gets it. You can, when we send stuff out there, say, hello, anybody in the neighborhood? You know, on the rockets, that's what it starts with. You know, universal. Can't mistake it. Music, same way. Music just reaches right across any boundary you want. You can put up all the walls you want. Music will go right through them. Music went across the Berlin Wall like it wasn't even there. It's right through it. You know, people in Russia were risking their lives to get a Beatles album and a pair of jeans. Risking their lives, literally. This is not, you know, hyperbole. They did. They would literally risk their life to get a Beatles album. Think about that. Cross-cultural, I don't even think describes it. You know, transcultural. I fully could envision people from a much more advanced civilization coming here and saying, "Well, lovely, nice primitives, good art. That thing they do with arranging the air molecules in patterns, that's lovely. What do they call that? Music. Well, we like it. We'll take some. We'll give you the formula for faster than light drive for all the blues." I could see it. I could handle that exchange. It's such a wonderful thing, man, music. And the blues, deep at the heart of it. For every single musician I know. Just did some stuff with Wynton Marsalis. You know the Marsalis family. Anybody that knows music knows about the Marsalis family. Playing with that band, it's like a little kid getting to play with the big kids, you know. They're all Juilliard, Berklee School of Music, you know, at somebody's music school. They all can read and write and chart for an entire orchestra. They all, you know, if they play a woodwind, they play everything from Barry sax up to a piccolo. And they can also sing and also play keyboard. All of them also play keyboard to allow them to be able to arrange and write. They all play keyboard and sing. Everybody. And these are guys who've given their entire lives to music. They got it. They grew up and said, "Yeah, that's what I'm going to do," and they did. And now they're like master class. And they come in there and we miss a cue. They don't blink. Just wait for it to come around again. We realize we've screwed up. We go for it. They're right there, looking at you like, yeah, I was waiting. Yeah, cool. And there was such a school, it was such a head stretcher, such a thing to exist for a moment in a world of completely deep, dyed-in-the-wool musicians to the core. And every single one of those guys worships and treasures and bows down at the altar of the blues, every one.
Why do people who have the ability to work with and create extremely complex music go back to something that's based on 3 chords?
Because the heart's in it. The heart of the whole thing is in there. This came from, people, from like work songs and chain gang songs and African stuff and chants they had and stuff. And that's one reason why it happened here, because we had the black people here. Blues came from black people. Let's not talk any bullshit. That's where it came from. And they brought it and they gave it to us. God bless them. And which is not to slack Bonnie Raitt and Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah, because they obviously understand it. So it's not a genetic gene pool thing. It crosses from heart to heart. And man, I don't know where we'd be without it. I don't think we could have invented jazz without it. I think that, people, players, I think, Bill Evans would have told you, oh yeah, no, we couldn't have done this if they hadn't done that first.
How do you see the mosaic of American music fitting together? You were saying before we started the interview that there are really 3 kinds of music that we've created in this country. How do they relate to one another as you've gotten to stand back and gain some perspective?
Well, blues and jazz, right next to each other, because jazz came from blues players getting more sophisticated. It's not a real stretch to go from, somebody playing blues just well to Oscar Peterson to Bill Evans to, it's just like, and you know where it came from. The other ones, jazz, well, once you heard any jazz, once Louis Armstrong crept into your house, train and miles not far behind, and that pretty much stuck the stake in the ground. And now you got guys now like Brad Mehldau. Did he play that? All descended from the same place. All descended from, Howlin' Wolf and John Lee. Like I said, you better call. The other one, bluegrass, now that's a whole other ball of wax. That's like Celtic roots dropped into the middle of the mountains there, back east. And then the banjo came along, it's actually a Mexican instrument. It was invented by Emilio Banjo. It's very famous. You probably don't know that. Emilio Banjo. The banjo. I'm lying my teeth. It's not true. Bluegrass, man, they'll tell you, that they came from that music. Absolutely, because they recognize it when they hear it. As a matter of fact, there's an exchange now back and forth between Ireland and Scotland and America of bluegrass people. They go over there and play, and they say, I recognize that. I recognize that. And the other guy says, yeah, I totally hear it. And they're talking to each other back and forth now. They'll play each other's festivals and stuff. Bluegrass has evolved up to the level of Alison Krauss and Union Station. If it goes any further than that, I don't know how it can get any better, but she's probably one of the greatest singers alive. No, probably is one of the greatest singers alive, and that band knock you right on your ass at 100 paces. They're just beyond belief. Jerry Douglas, and they all, believe me, Jerry Douglas can play the blues and make you cry. And that whole band, bluegrassers, play the blues and make you cry. Alison Krauss can make you cry anyway. I'm proud of that. The United States has done a lot of horrific things, a lot of things I'm ashamed of. I really love this country. But I look at those three things and I think, we gave the world the blues, jazz, and bluegrass, and we didn't do a bad thing there. Maybe done a bad thing a lot of other places, but those are lifting forces. Those are elevating forces for humanity, for the whole human race. So, at least there, we did something good.
What's the role of improvisation in these three truly American forms of music? And the reason I ask this is that I got to interview Rich Del Grosso, who you may know is a great blues mandolin player who has gone over and taught master classes in Italy. And while classically trained musicians that he plays with are technically probably far superior to what you could posit a good player might be, he said when you step off into improvisation, it's a different world for them.
Different world for them. They're used to working off a chart.
And so how is that a part of the American tradition in these three forms of music?
You're talking about, in all three of the American forms of music, you're talking about unschooled players, for the most part. Certainly at the beginning, none of them knew how to read. I don't know how to read. I'm illiterate. So improvisation pretty much comes naturally if you're not playing a chart, because you do it this way, and then, hey, I could also do, and so you start that, and it's a slippery slope. You may be playing band charts on your trumpet when you're in high school, but once you hear Miles Davis,
your world changes.
Your world changes. Your world changes. I've probably listened to sketches in Spain, 1,000 times. At least. Now that part of that is Gil Evans, the arranger who revoiced the Concerto de Aranjuez for a modern orchestra and trumpet playing the guitar part. Part of it's him, because he did a fantastic job. But it was Miles playing that. Just, he got you. And improvisation, I love charts. I listen to Winton and the big band play charts, and they just slaughter at a distance. I mean, you hear a big horn section playing a really well-written chart, it will knock your socks off. But improvisation, there's a whole lot of people been doing it in every possible way, Ala Rocca improvises on the tabla, and Ella Fitzgerald improvised with her voice, and certainly every other musical strain in every country of the world evolves to there. If you're a good player, really good player, you start playing your own melody.
Is that something that really can be taught, or is that just a plateau that you achieve at some point?
It's part of the 10,000 hour rule. You have to play that long in order to get good at anything. I certainly have sung more than 10,000 hours and probably played more than 10 too. But if you play long enough to get really good, and that's how long it takes, then you can't help bringing the blues with it. It's just not going to happen. My first album I paid my own money for was Duke and Ella. And,
You could still listen today and learn, right?
Hell yeah. Duke Ellington? Are you kidding? There's a guy who could play the blues anytime he sat down. Not a problem. Go right there. Never play the same thing twice.